the process that we went through was great. And honestly, it was a process that we never would have done on our own, primarily because we didn't have the background and experience in the learning development world. We help companies implement practices in their organization, and we lean heavily on our wonderful coaches that go and work with those companies. And they do it with a group of people, and then the learning cascades down. So when we decided to invest in a more robust learning management platform, we were going into it with the same approach of, okay, we have a lot of content, and now we're going to have the backend architecture that will help us see and help the leaders of the organizations that we work with see what their employees were accessing and how they were moving through the courses that we have. But we hadn't really figured out how to structure the whole system to connect to the certain things, the certain ways that people learn, and how to connect the architecture of the system to what it takes to be successful in the great game of business. And
Mhm.
so, in working with Dr. Kristi and starting out with our discovery process, that was a great place to start. We had some great insights through the written survey, the one on one interviews, and the focus groups that were conducted to understand really where learning drops off and what frustrations were with our previous platform, what where the gaps are when people are trying to implement and sustain the great game of business. And so that was a great starting point, and then developing our personas from there to understand the different distinct groups, this different roles that people have in the organizations and how those support the great game of business. And so figuring out what those personas are and the needs of those personas from all of the discovery that we did was a great next step to then think through what content that we have that's appropriate for each of those roles. And then mapping out our competencies, our top 10 competencies, and the framework for how we want people to learn and grow in the great game of business. And so then we took all of our assets that we have, and currently we have over 225 different assets. So then mapping each of those assets to the different competencies and figuring out how those fit within the different persona roles that we identified, which then was a great step for determining where our gaps are to help us understand where we need to develop more content to ensure that these different roles have everything that they need to progress in the different competencies and serve what we have identified from the discovery that they need to really feel successful in the great game of business. And all of that kind of wrapped in the project management that Dr. Christie provided and keeping us on track and moving forward and hitting deadlines